Richard Pankhurst. I've lived in Addis Ababa. I was until recently in the Institute of Ethiopian Studies of Addis Ababa University.
I'm Rita Pankhurst. I've lived here as long as my husband. My profession is to be a librarian. I was librarian of Addis Ababa University, and a kind of by osmosis I've become a historian. We met at Toynbee Hall, which is an adult education institute in East London, and Richard was teaching economic history and I was teaching French, and really that was a good unexpected turning point in my life. I moved from knowing nothing about Ethiopia, having seen the emperor, as it happens, in the London street when he was there with his plume in an open car, but that was the extent of my knowledge. So we came together. I came a few months after Richard and his mother, and we lived as a threesome very happily in this house until she died in 1960. Richard's mother had translated some Romanian poetry by a certain well-known Romanian poet, which she did with a Romanian who spoke English. And it was some celebration to do with this poet called Eminescu, and the celebration happened to be in Constanța. So in fact, Richard was at Constanța when I was at this seaside resort called Euphoria, which was only about 20 kilometers away. But we never met for a good 20 years after that. Mm-hmm. We had in fact been very close to each other when we were children. During the Derg, we left Ethiopia. We didn't have to, but we, for various reasons, Richard, because he was afraid that the lycée would close. At that time there was a drive to stop private education, and I wanted the children to be able to live outside Ethiopia if they found that they had to, because one was born here and the other when he was 5 weeks old. One day we were traveling in a coach with both our children, then teenagers, from Yugoslavia to Italy. And we kept changing seats so that everybody could talk to everybody. And I came round and our son and daughter were sitting talking very seriously. So I said, well, what are you talking about? They said, we're talking about the way you brought us up. So we said, well, what was the main trouble? And they said, well, there were two things. One thing, you treated us as adults when we were children. And the other thing is you didn't celebrate enough. We're not much birthday, wedding people, and they regret that we didn't. There wasn't enough opportunity to celebrate and to be children.
One could describe Addis Ababa when we arrived as an agglomeration of isolated villages. There was no such thing as a unified Addis Ababa. There were various little areas with their own little markets, and it was, as I say, really an agglomeration of individual villages. These gradually came together with the development of more roads, so that it became the next network of the town.
Well, I think you can look at the more visible changes. This road network is something unbelievable. I mean, we've been a very short time. Addis Ababa has moved from really very small, few main roads, and none of them all that big, to somewhere where you can were it not for the increase in traffic, you could move about much more easily. Um, there are infinitely more schools. There are now secondary schools in places that are not really very well known. And there are, I think, 23 universities. So there's been a tremendous change in education. The university was founded, and he became the director of the Institute of Ethiopian Studies, and I became the librarian of the university. And so we became involved in Ethiopian education, and were able to do our bit towards that. One day Richard was at the university and he gets a telephone call from somebody in the finance department. He says, I don't know what to do. There's a man here standing in front of me and he's shouting at me. What shall I do? It's not a common experience. So there are these sort of elements that make you think that there is something inherited from having been a country for a very long time. One of those is that everybody can be in a situation where they may have to make a decision, and they make it. So I think this is one of the things that make me think that the future looks bright.
And this is where the economy of scale comes in. A country with 100 million inhabitants is going to play a major role for something else.
So I think Ethiopia's got a lot going for it, quite apart from space and natural resources and a reasonable climate. Not everywhere, but for a good part of it. So one has to look. I don't think that the period of plenty is round the corner. Ethiopia has a lot of problems, but I think that there is a lot of energy that isn't actually coming out yet, so latent energy, and I think that will take Ethiopia far.